Energy follows attention. This is not just a poetic phrase, it's a psychological law that governs the inner architecture of consciousness. Wherever your attention goes, your life energy flows. Whatever you repeatedly think about, feel about, and emotionally engage with becomes your lived reality. The human mind is a sculptor, and attention is the chisel. With every thought, you carve your inner landscape and shape the outer circumstances that mirror it. When you pour attention into worry, you energize fear. When you direct it into gratitude, you amplify abundance. The external world may appear objective, but its meaning is animated by where your focus lies. Most people live unconsciously, unaware that their attention is being hijacked by noise, distraction, and the endless pull of digital stimulation. They wake up reacting, scrolling, consuming, comparing. Their energy dissipates, scattered across 1,000 fragments of meaningless input. They wonder why they feel tired, uninspired, or directionless, yet the reason is simple: their attention is leaking. Energy cannot sustain form without direction. When you stop choosing what to focus on, the world will choose for you, and it rarely chooses peace. Attention is more than observation. It is participation. To focus on something is to feed it with the substance of your being. If you dwell on the wounds of the past, you breathe life into them again and again, keeping them active within your psyche. If you dwell on possibility, the same energy begins to arrange circumstances that match your internal vision. The mind does not know the difference between what you vividly imagine and what you physically experience. It responds to attention as reality. That is why healing, creation, and transformation all begin within the theater of focus. In relationships, this principle reveals a subtle truth. When your attention constantly seeks the one who withdraws, your energy validates their distance. You chase, they retreat. But the moment your attention returns to your own center, to your growth, your inner peace, your boundaries, the dynamic shifts. Energy follows the one who carries it consciously. You no longer send your life force to sustain what drains you. Instead, you invest it in what strengthens you. And the paradox appears: as your attention withdraws from need, you become magnetic to authenticity. The modern world profits from your distracted energy. Every advertisement, notification, and headline competes for the currency of attention. It's not your time that is being stolen, it's your psychic energy. When you give too much attention to what angers or frightens you, you unknowingly become a transmitter of that vibration. Your conversations echo it, your emotions spread it, and soon your environment reflects it. This is why conscious attention is sacred. It determines not only what you see, but who you become. To understand energy following attention, you must observe how subtle shifts in focus alter your emotional state. When you dwell on what's missing, your body contracts. When you acknowledge what's already here, your body opens. The nervous system listens to attention. It translates focus into chemistry, stress hormones, or calming neurotransmitters. Your body is not separate from your consciousness. It is the mirror through which attention becomes physical. Over time, this focus hardens into personality, habits, even fate. People who continually focus on failure unconsciously sabotage success because their energy is anchored in fear. Those who train attention on purpose and vision move through obstacles with a strange ease because their energy knows where to flow. Attention, then, is a form of prayer, not in a religious sense, but in the sense of devotion. Whatever you consistently attend to becomes your silent worship. If you attend to beauty, you awaken sensitivity to the divine order in small things. If you attend to resentment, you deepen identification with pain. The soul grows where attention rests. That is why ancient wisdom always pointed inward, not as escape, but as mastery. To command attention is to command energy, and to command energy is to reshape experience. In moments of silence, you can feel this process happening. When your mind wanders into anxiety, notice how your energy feels: restless, thin, unfocused. Then gently redirect attention to your breath, to the present moment. Instantly, your energy begins to settle and strengthen. Nothing external has changed, yet everything feels different. This is how inner alchemy works. It is not through force, but through redirection. Energy doesn't need to be controlled, it needs to be guided. Many people mistake business for productivity, but attention scattered across multiple tasks produces exhaustion, not progress. Depth, not speed, moves energy efficiently. When your attention is whole, even simple actions carry power. You can speak fewer words, but with more weight. You can work fewer hours, but with more impact. It's not the quantity of effort that changes outcomes. It's the quality of attention behind it. A minute of conscious focus can equal hours of distracted motion. When attention becomes disciplined, energy becomes luminous. You begin to notice synchronicities, patterns, and inner guidance that were previously hidden by noise. You start to move with life rather than against it. People call it intuition, but it is simply attuned attention, awareness unobstructed by mental chatter. Life begins to reflect the order you hold within. There is a deep psychological freedom in realizing that you can choose where to place your attention. You may not control every event, but you control the inner spotlight. If you direct it toward growth, healing, or learning, even pain becomes a teacher. If you direct it toward fear and blame, even blessings turn to burdens. The outer world is a projection of inner attention patterns, repeated until consciousness awakens to its power. Energy follows attention, it always has. And wherever that attention flows, it gives life meaning and momentum to the unseen forces shaping your destiny. The law of psychic withdrawal describes a profound transformation that occurs when a person reclaims the emotional and mental energy they have unconsciously invested in people, situations, or identities that no longer serve their growth. It is the quiet reversal of dependency, the moment when your inner world stops orbiting around external validation. This law reveals that energy is not lost when love, attention, or obsession fades. It is merely returning to its original source. Most suffering begins when psychic energy is projected outward and attached to something that refuses to reciprocate. Healing begins when that same energy is withdrawn and reintegrated into the self. Every human relationship, goal, or dream holds a psychic investment. You pour emotional energy into it, hopes, expectations, memories. This is not visible energy, but it's felt deeply. When those attachments are broken or betrayed, the pain that follows is not just loss, it's the recoil of your own energy returning through the corridors of the psyche. People often mistake this recoil for heartbreak, but in truth, it's reclamation. The psyche is simply bringing home what was scattered. The law of psychic withdrawal becomes active when consciousness recognizes this process and allows it to complete. Instead of chasing closure, you allow the current of energy to flow back to you. Instead of clinging to the image of what once was, you sit in the emptiness that forms when energy detaches. That emptiness is not punishment, it is purification. The energy that was once projected outward begins to crystallize into power, intuition, and inner stability. It stops feeding illusions and starts nourishing truth. When you withdraw psychic energy from an unhealthy attachment, you are not becoming cold or indifferent. You are ending the energetic contract that kept you bound to repetition. The ego often resists this withdrawal because it confuses attachment with identity. It says, if I let go of them, I lose part of myself. But what is truly lost is the illusion that your energy depends on another's acknowledgement. As the withdrawal deepens, something extraordinary occurs. You begin to feel yourself again, not as a reflection, but as presence. This law also explains why emotional detachment can feel like grief. When your energy returns, it carries fragments of pain, unmet needs, and memories still encoded with longing. These fragments surface for reintegration. The psychic cleanses itself not by forgetting, but by reabsorbing what was disowned. That is why healing often feels heavy before it feels light. The pain is the weight of returning energy. Once reclaimed, it becomes available for new creation. In practical terms, psychic withdrawal manifests as loss of interest in drama, reduction in emotional reactivity, and a growing neutrality toward what once consumed you. You stop explaining yourself to people who misunderstand you. You stop rehearsing what you'll say if they return. You stop waiting for external correction. Your silence becomes active. It gathers energy. What once felt like numbness begins to feel like strength. The more you withdraw, the more life rearranges to reflect your regained coherence. Energetically, this process mirrors the way nature operates. When a tree withdraws sap during winter, it is not dying, it is preserving energy for regeneration. The same applies to the psyche. Withdrawal is not weakness, it is a preparatory movement for renewal. In this retreat, consciousness consolidates its power, recalibrates priorities, and restores equilibrium. People who misunderstand this phase may call you distant, but in truth, you are returning to yourself. The law of psychic withdrawal also governs how obsession loses its grip. When attention is repeatedly directed towards someone or something that does not reciprocate, it creates an energetic imbalance. The more energy you give without return, the more depleted you feel. But once awareness intervenes and stops feeding the pattern, the energetic loop collapses. What was once an addiction to emotional stimulation turns into clarity. You begin to see reality as it is, not as the mind wanted it to be. In deeper psychological terms, withdrawal is the healing of projection. When energy is projected outward, we attribute to others qualities or meanings that belong to our inner world. We fall in love with our own unclaimed light reflected in another. We despise others for embodying traits we deny within ourselves. When psychic energy withdraws, the mirror dissolves. What was once seen as external becomes integrated. You stop seeking the lost parts of yourself in other people because they have come home. As the withdrawal continues, a strange serenity unfolds. Situations that once triggered fear or anger now feel neutral. You recognize that your peace no longer depends on control. You realize that love is not diminished by detachment, it becomes purified through it. You can care without clinging, give without depletion, and walk away without hatred. This is the sign that energy has returned to its rightful center. The law of psychic withdrawal is also the foundation of emotional boundaries. Without the ability to withdraw energy, boundaries remain theoretical. You may say no, but still think obsessively about what you refused. True boundaries exist when your energy no longer leaks into what you left behind. That is the invisible line between freedom and entanglement. Your silence becomes a declaration that your energy is sovereign again. At the collective level, this law explains why societies in turmoil often experience widespread fatigue. Collective attention is fragmented, constantly pulled toward outrage, fear, and conflict. When people begin to consciously withdraw attention from divisive narratives, the collective energy field starts to heal. The same truth lies individually. Healing begins the moment you stop feeding chaos with attention. You can feel the law at work in everyday life. When you stop chasing someone's approval, they often sense the energetic shift. Some try to pull you back into the old dynamic, not because they love you, but because your energy once nourished their emptiness. The test is whether you can hold your ground and let your energy continue returning home. Each moment you do, your vibration stabilizes and your clarity sharpens and your intuition awakens. The psyche, once fragmented, becomes whole again. In essence, the law of psychic withdrawal is the unseen process through which the soul retrieves its power from illusion. It is the silent turning point between attachment and freedom, dependence and autonomy, projection and self-realization. It is how energy remembers where it belongs and how consciousness learns to stand within itself. Magnetic stillness is not the absence of motion, but the presence of power. It is the quality of energy that emerges when the mind no longer scatters itself across worries, desires, and endless reactions. In stillness, a person becomes luminous, grounded, and quietly magnetic. The world begins to respond to this energy, not because it is loud or forceful, but because it carries an unmistakable coherence. True magnetism is not created by doing more. It arises when one's inner state becomes so aligned that everything unnecessary falls away, leaving only presence. Human beings are conditioned to equate movement with progress. We rush, chase, prove, and perform, believing that the louder our actions, the greater our influence. Yet the more we chase, the more energy we lose. Restlessness fragments attention, and fragmented attention weakens energy. In contrast, stillness gathers power. It is the quiet consolidation of psychic energy where every thought and feeling returns to its source. This concentrated energy begins to radiate outward as calm authority. People sense it instinctively. They may not understand it, but they feel drawn to it because it represents something they have forgotten within themselves. Magnetic stillness arises from deep inner equilibrium. It is born when a person no longer needs to control outcomes to feel safe. Control is noise, stillness is trust. The one who trusts life can stand in silence without anxiety. Their energy does not waver with the fluctuations of external events. They carry a quiet confidence that communicates, I do not chase because I know what is meant for me cannot miss me. This frequency is profoundly magnetic. It bends circumstances, synchronizes timing, and attracts what vibrates at the same level of peace. When a person is restless, their energy becomes turbulent. This turbulence repels stability because it communicates desperation. The psyche emits waves that signal lack. I need, I want, I must have. But when the psyche rests in stillness, its signal changes. It begins to transmit completeness. Completeness is irresistible because it embodies the one quality every soul seeks: wholeness. Others feel this wholeness and unconsciously gravitate toward it, hoping to absorb even a fragment of that peace. That is why magnetic stillness can influence without effort. Its presence speaks louder than words. To cultivate this state requires unlearning the habit of constant doing. The modern world glorifies productivity and external validation, but magnetism grows in the quiet soil of inner attention. When you stop reacting to every stimulus and begin to observe your thoughts without attachment, energy starts to collect. That energy is not lost, it condenses into awareness. Over time, this awareness deepens into stillness. The more you rest in that stillness, the more magnetic your field becomes. You stop seeking recognition and begin to emit it. Magnetic stillness also transforms relationships. When you are calm, others feel safe in your presence. They drop their defenses, speak more openly, and reveal their truth. You don't have to persuade, your energy does it for you. This is because your stillness creates a mirror that reflects others back to themselves without distortion. They feel seen, not judged. And because true stillness carries no hidden agenda, it allows authenticity to emerge naturally. The magnetic person doesn't demand attention. They invite it simply by existing in harmony with their own being. This energy is also deeply creative. When the mind is still, inspiration flows without obstruction. Thoughts no longer collide with anxiety or doubt. Creativity becomes effortless because it arises from a unified field of consciousness. That is why the greatest insights often appear in silence during moments of solitude or meditation. The universe whispers only to those who have quieted enough to listen. In this stillness, ideas, opportunities, and people appear at the right time without force. Life begins to move around you with an elegance that feels almost orchestrated. Magnetic stillness does not mean passivity. It is not withdrawal from life, but an engagement with life from a place of centered awareness. The still person can act decisively because their actions arise from clarity, not impulse. When they speak, their words carry weight because they are not diluted by inner conflict. When they move, their direction is precise because their energy is undivided. This is what gives stillness its power. It aligns thought, emotion, and action into one coherent vibration. That coherence radiates influence effortlessly. In contrast, people who live in perpetual motion often appear powerful on the surface, but are internally fragmented. Their energy is loud but thin. They need constant validation to sustain their sense of momentum. The magnetic individual does not need to announce themselves. Their presence is felt even in silence. This presence is what ancient wisdom described as a quiet mind that commands attention. It is the silent authority that comes from inner alignment, not external force. Stillness is magnetic because it resonates with the natural order of the universe. Everything in existence seeks equilibrium. The mind of one who is still vibrates at the same frequency as that equilibrium, drawing other energies toward it in harmony. This is why we feel peace around certain people or places. They are attuned to the still rhythm of existence. Their calmness harmonizes dissonance without effort. To enter magnetic stillness, one must face the noise within. You cannot fake it. You must descend through the layers of mental chatter, unresolved emotion, and habitual tension. Stillness is not something you acquire. It is what remains when everything false is released. As thought slows and emotion settles, awareness becomes luminous. From that luminosity, you begin to move through life with a subtle but undeniable gravity. People sense your energy as grounded, your presence as reassuring, your words as trustworthy. The journey to magnetic stillness is not about silencing thought, but about disengaging from its turbulence. When thoughts arise, you no longer identify with them. You let them pass like clouds across an open sky. The more you observe without reacting, the clearer your inner space becomes. In that clarity, a powerful stillness takes root. It is not empty, it is charged with potential, the same potential that shapes galaxies and births stars. In this state, you do not chase because you understand that everything of value moves toward stability. The calm lake reflects the sky, while the stormy sea distorts it. Energy always seeks coherence. When you become coherent within yourself, the universe arranges around that coherence. This is the secret pulse beneath every form of natural attraction, the invisible rhythm through which stillness becomes magnetism and presence becomes influence. The paradox of desire lies in the strange truth that the more you crave something, the further it drifts from you, and the moment you release it, it begins to move toward you. Desire is the engine of creation, yet it is also the root of suffering when it turns into grasping. This paradox reveals a deep psychological law. You attract not what you desperately want, but what you are energetically aligned with. When desire becomes attachment, energy contracts. When desire transforms into intention, held in calm certainty, energy expands. The tension between these two states defines the delicate balance of manifestation and peace. Desire itself is not wrong. It is the movement of life seeking expression through you. Every human longing, love, freedom, recognition, purpose, is a current of energy inviting you to grow. But when the ego takes hold of desire, it transforms it into demand. The pure impulse of creation becomes distorted by fear, by the need to control outcomes, by the hunger for validation. In that distortion, energy tightens. Instead of flowing outward in harmony with life, it begins to resist. The psyche declares, I will not be complete until this desire is fulfilled. And thus, incompleteness becomes its reality. The paradox arises because the very energy that tries to force fulfillment blocks it. The tighter you grip, the less life can move. The more you insist on a specific form or timing, the less room there is for the organic unfolding of reality. Desire in its pure form is expansive. It opens you to possibilities. But once corrupted by fear, it collapses into fixation. You stop co-creating with life and start wrestling against it. What you call fate is often just the resistance created by unbalanced desire. To understand the paradox, imagine the difference between magnetism and pursuit. Magnetism draws, pursuit depletes. When you are magnetic, your energy is centered and radiates outward effortlessly. When you are pursuing, your energy leaks outward, signaling lack. The universe reads that signal and mirrors it back. This is why people who chase love often find rejection, and those who remain at peace within themselves become surrounded by affection. The paradox of desire is not punishment, it is reflection. It shows you the energetic state you are truly in, not the one you pretend to be. Psychologically, this paradox exposes the conflict between the conscious and unconscious mind. The conscious mind declares what it wants: success, love, abundance. But the unconscious transmits fear, doubt, and unworthiness. The universe does not respond to words, it responds to vibration. If your desire carries tension, obsession, or desperation, the underlying message is, I don't have it. The creative field hears only that and replicates it. That is why letting go often produces the result, chasing never could. Letting go removes the static from your signal. It frees the desire from the grip of fear and restores it to its natural flow. Desire becomes powerful when it transforms into vision without attachment. You see what you want clearly, but do not depend on it for identity. You move toward it with openness, not hunger. This shift creates a paradoxical calm energy, focused yet detached, passionate yet peaceful. That state is what ancient mystics called effortless effort. You do everything necessary, but without forcing outcomes. You act, but you do not strain. You want, but you do not suffer. The universe tends to cooperate with such energy because it carries no contradiction. At the heart of this paradox is a spiritual truth. Desire is both the path and the obstacle. It pulls you forward into evolution, but it must eventually be transcended. Every fulfilled desire leads to another, creating an endless chain that teaches the soul to look deeper than temporary forms. When you understand that the essence of every desire is the same, to feel whole, you begin to focus less on external acquisition and more on inner alignment. You stop chasing symbols and start embodying the state those symbols represent. You realize that what you seek from the world is a reflection of what you had to awaken within yourself. This is why unfulfilled desire is often life's most intelligent teacher. It exposes where your energy is still fragmented. It shows you which illusions you are clinging to. The pain of wanting something and not receiving it is the friction between your higher self, which knows abundance, and your lower self, which believes in lack. When that friction is understood, it becomes light. When it is resisted, it becomes suffering. The paradox of desire teaches surrender, not as defeat, but as wisdom. In relationships, this dynamic plays out continuously. The more you need someone to love you, the more pressure your energy places on the connection. Love becomes performance instead of flow, but when you are content in your own presence, love expands naturally. People feel safe with those who do not demand their energy for validation. This is the hidden magnetism behind detachment. It is not that you stop caring, it's that your caring is no longer entangled with need. You give love because you are love, not because you hope to receive it back. The same law applies to ambition and success. Those who chase recognition often remain invisible because their energy communicates insecurity. They are not creating, they are compensating. But those who work in quiet devotion to their craft, who express their purpose without urgency, radiate authority. Their calmness draws opportunity. The paradox of desire ensures that power flows to those who no longer need it to feel powerful. On a deeper level, the paradox mirrors the movement between form and emptiness. Every desire arises from a sense of separation, the belief that something outside the self will complete it. But true fulfillment comes when consciousness remembers that it was never lacking. When you align with that inner fullness, you can desire freely without being enslaved by desire. You can want without worry, dream without despair, act without attachment. This is not indifference, it is mastery of energy. In this state, desire becomes creative rather than compulsive. You no longer chase outcomes, you shape them with presence. You can visualize, affirm, and act, yet remain peaceful if things unfold differently. You trust the rhythm of life instead of fighting it. And that trust, paradoxically, becomes the very force that fulfills your desires in ways your mind could never have planned. The paradox of desire thus reveals that the secret to getting what you want is to stop needing it, to release the tension that blocks the natural flow of abundance, and to remember that you were whole before the wanting ever began. Energetic sovereignty is the state in which your life force, your emotional attention, and your psychic boundaries belong entirely to you. It is the mastery of self-energy, the ability to remain centered no matter who or what enters your field. To be energetically sovereign means that you are no longer controlled by the moods, opinions, or manipulations of others. You recognize that your emotional state is your responsibility and that your energy is your most valuable currency. In a world that constantly seeks to claim fragments of your attention, to be sovereign is to reclaim authorship over your inner atmosphere. Every interaction between people involves an exchange of energy. Words, glances, intentions, and emotions all carry frequency. When you are unaware of this exchange, your energy becomes porous. You absorb other people's projections and emotions as if they were your own. You start to feel tired without reason, anxious without cause, and dependent on the approval or affection of others to feel balanced. This is energetic enmeshment, the opposite of sovereignty. It happens when your sense of self is externalized, when you let others dictate your vibration instead of maintaining your own. Energetic sovereignty begins the moment you decide to withdraw permission from anything that drains or defines you. You start to observe where your energy flows and where it leaks. You notice how certain conversations leave you depleted, how certain environments make your body tense, and how certain relationships thrive on emotional drama. Instead of reacting, you step back into awareness. Awareness is the gatekeeper of sovereignty. The moment you become conscious of your energetic patterns, you can redirect them. You stop being a victim of vibration and become the architect of it. This sovereignty is not isolation. It is not the avoidance of connection, but the purification of it. When you are sovereign, your relationships become conscious exchanges rather than unconscious entanglements. You no longer need to control others or lose yourself in them. You can love deeply without dissolving your boundaries. You can listen without absorbing. You can give without depletion. Because your energy is rooted in your own center, you can share it without fear of loss. This is the quiet power that comes from inner stability. Energetic sovereignty also requires the integration of emotional intelligence. Many people confuse empathy with over-identification. To feel another's emotion does not mean to take it on. True empathy observes without absorption. It recognizes emotion as information, not identity. When you are sovereign, you can sense the pain of another without drowning in it. You can remain compassionate without being consumed. This balance transforms empathy from a burden into a gift. Your presence itself becomes healing because it stands as a stable field that others can align with rather than a mirror of their chaos. At the psychological level, energetic sovereignty demands self-awareness of projection. When you project your unhealed emotions onto others, you hand them power over your energy. You become reactive to their behavior because they represent parts of yourself you have not accepted. Sovereignty means reclaiming those projections, owning your triggers, and integrating your shadow. The more inner work you do, the less energy you lose to defense, blame, or judgment. You stop outsourcing responsibility for your feelings and begin transmuting them internally. This process transforms conflict into clarity and reactivity into wisdom. To remain sovereign in energy is also to master your attention Attention is the steering wheel of life force. Wherever your focus goes, your energy follows. If your attention is scattered among fears, comparisons, or social validation, your energy fractures. But when your attention is deliberate, your energy becomes unified. Sovereign individuals are selective with what they consume. Conversations, media environments, they know that what enters their mind eventually shapes their vibration. They practice energetic hygiene, not out of paranoia, but out of respect for the power of focus. Stillness plays a central role in sovereignty. In moments of silence, you can feel where your energy resides. You can sense if it is centered or dispersed. Meditation, solitude, and mindful breathing are ways of gathering lost fragments of your life force. Each moment you withdraw energy from distraction and return it to presence, you strengthen your sovereignty. Over time, you become less reactive, less dependent, less fearful. Your inner state becomes self-generating. You no longer wait for the world to give you peace. You emanate it. Energetic sovereignty also alters the way you respond to manipulation. When people try to provoke guilt, fear, or obligation, they are often seeking access to your energy. The moment you feel pressured or emotionally cornered, sovereignty asks you to pause. Instead of defending, you detach. You realize that no one can truly control you unless you grant them emotional access. This awareness dissolves manipulation not through confrontation, but through non-participation. Your silence becomes a boundary and your neutrality a shield. At a collective level, sovereignty challenges systems of energetic dependency. Modern society thrives on attention economies, advertising, social media, politics, all designed to harvest human focus. When individuals reclaim their attention, those systems weaken. Sovereign energy is difficult to manipulate because it cannot be baited by fear or seduced by illusion. It chooses rather than reacts. It questions rather than obeys. In this way, energetic sovereignty is an act of quiet rebellion against the psychic conditioning that keeps humanity fragmented and distracted. This sovereignty also awakens authenticity. When your energy is your own, your actions become aligned with your truth rather than with external expectation. You stop performing and start expressing. The need to impress dissolves, replaced by the desire to embody. The more authentic you become, the more coherent your energy field grows. Coherence naturally attracts resonance. You no longer chase opportunities or validation because your vibration calls in what matches it. That is the invisible magnetism of sovereignty. It draws without seeking. Cultivating this state requires consistency. You must learn to return to your center again and again, especially when chaos surrounds you. Emotional storms will still occur, but your anchor will hold. People may test your boundaries, but you will no longer bend to please or argue to prove. You will recognize that peace is not the absence of challenge, but the ability to remain undisturbed within it. The more you practice holding your energy intact, the more life begins to align around your stability. Energetic sovereignty is not about control, it is about alignment. Control demands that the external world conform to your comfort. Alignment means you remain centered regardless of external movement. It is a living balance between openness and protection, empathy and autonomy, giving and receiving. To live in this state is to stand as a whole system, responsive but not reactive, compassionate but not consumed, connected but not dependent. It is the natural authority that arises when energy finally belongs fully to its source